Team Reez.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 25 of Great Talks. I have the opportunity to bring on two special guests, Hunter and Skylar. If you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hey everybody, we are Hunter and Skylar Thatcher. First and foremost, we just want to say we appreciate the fact that you're giving us the opportunity to meet with you, Team Reez, Roderick, to have us here on episode 25 of your show. We're very grateful to be here, so we appreciate that. Yeah. But would you like to say anything?
Yeah, we're Hunter and Skylar. We live in the Austin, Texas area. Right now, we currently wait tables at a really nice restaurant here in Austin. We also are in the entrepreneurial realm as well. We've been married for almost a year, so it's pretty new and fresh. So we kind of got married during the whole, COVID, all that stuff. But very excited about where it's gotten us, our journey and what has gotten us here, and we're looking forward to the future as well.
Nice.
Nice.
This is why I brought these two people in, because they are very articulate and they know how to speak and communicate well, and they are married, which is a very important piece of this entire episode, because they're going to give their perspective on the actual question of what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to give my perspective as a single person, and I believe that will bring a great balance into the overall scope of the entire thing. So we're not here to give a right or wrong way or certain answers. It's going to be different for everybody, but just to go ahead and get to the actual question of the entire episode, the question is, how long is too long to be in a relationship without being married?
You go ahead.
Wow, what a power-packed question.
Yeah,
man. So there's so many different avenues to start on that, and I first want to I'd say I would like to start by saying every person, every relationship, every marriage is going to be different, right? What worked for her and I may not work for somebody else in our perspective, but something that we found, maybe just to get the ball rolling, I feel like, we took about, 2.5, 3 years, almost 4?
Yeah, it was a little over 3 years.
It was about 3 years. It was about 3 years before we got married. However, our situation was a little different, right? It started very long distance. She was in North Carolina, I was in Texas. Things progressed. 3 years had passed. I ended up moving her to Austin. So with having all that different transition, right, we were living together, which isn't something now. My beliefs is like, I think we should have stayed separate, right, until we came together in marriage, but things were different, right? So with our perspective, I would say, 2 to 3, 4 years is almost necessary to really find out who that person is. But I also understand if you meet someone at 35 years old, or if you meet someone at 18 years old, that's going to look a lot different for everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like it's really, the world is really good about putting like rules, if you will, on how things are supposed to look and how things are supposed to be. And for us, that was not our situation at all. But we're very grateful for that. Like I said, our journey has gotten us where we're at right now. But I think, to answer your question, I don't know if there is. I don't know if there's an amount of time that is necessary, but for me, it's about discernment. It's about knowing, within you, like, am I ready for this? Am I ready to step into this type of a commitment? Also understanding the commitment, because I think a lot of people fly by the seat of their pants, if you will, and just kind of make decisions without backing them within themselves. And so I think, really, to answer the question, it's not about time. It's about, where are you at? Are you ready? Are you ready as a couple? Have you discussed that as a couple? Are you ready to step into that? So that would be my answer.
Right.
And I was going to say, if I can bounce off one more thing on that, I actually wrote down some notes here when I was kind of like formulating some ideas.
Let's hear
it. Communication and understanding the other person's wants, needs, and desires is absolutely key. And that's very similar to what she was saying. And again, with our situation, that crazy transition period about how, how we actually came together, it took a lot of very upfront communication. Like, what do you want? What are you looking for? Those type of things. So I would say, again, communication is definitely necessary before you start the whole journey anyways, to know what that other person wants in the end. And if you want to get married, if that's that desire. So.
Right. I'm glad you brought up the topic of communication. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but in any type of relationship, platonic or romantic, I believe communication will either make you or break you. So if you're not communicating with your partner, you're not telling them, or not your partner, but your partner or your friend, whoever it is that you're talking to, communication can prevent a lot of problems from happening before they happen. And like I said, I don't want to get too far off on the tangent. I just want to highlight that what you guys said. That's really important. That's really a really good key to have. And then what Skylar says, like knowing when you're ready. Um, what are some keys or some signs that will help you to know that, hey, we're kind of ready to move to the next step?
That's a good question.
It is. For me, and I think again, honestly, that's hard to answer because everyone is different. But I think for me, it's almost, I have this quote that I always ring in my head. It's proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Right.
And I know that sounds very kind of like business, but it goes into relationships as well. Are you doing, are you putting time and effort in before you come into a relationship on yourself to properly prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, in your own life, your goals, things like that, so that when you step into that relationship, some of those things are already, it's almost like you have a prepared heart. Like you're open to that. If you jump, a lot of times, if we're not doing those things on the end, we kind of just fall into this relationship and we start getting into the routine, and we, however that looks, start living together, start, doing whatever, and those emotions kind of take over. But have you done what you've needed to do for yourself on the back end to be like, okay, well, this is what I want in a partner. This is what I would like my life to look like. This is who I want to be as a partner. And I think when you're in that state of preparedness, it's much easier for you to go into a relationship level-headed and being like, okay, is this the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with? Do I know that I know that I know that I'm ready to step into this? So hopefully that helps.
No, yeah, I think that's great. And I was just actually listening to a podcast. Well, first off, I was listening to one of your things. You were talking about communication. You had your Rubik's Cubes, the perspective.
Yeah.
I really like that, because that's what we started to realize is she has a way different perspective. I have a way different perspective, but communicating those perspectives is what helps us achieve that common ground, excuse me. Also, going back to my original thought, I was listening to a podcast with Mel Robbins on there, and she talks a lot about, what you want in a marriage isn't necessarily to come into the marriage, come together in a relationship even, and start to try and make the other person happy. What you want to do is become happy yourself. And one of the things she was talking about, prepare yourself properly. So when the opportunity arises, that person steps into your life, like similar to her and I, we were preparing ourselves for years before this, praying for each other before it, right? And those things had brought that alignment. So when we seen it, we realized we're two decently happy people. We're pretty put together. We know what we want. And again, we communicated those things. Therefore, that made us much more confident in being able to step into that marriage without all the fears and concerns of, well, if this happens, will we stay strong? And we know we will, because we have those solidified values within our system, within ourselves, right? Which make us realize no matter what happens in life, because we understand trials, tribulations, ebbs and flows, whatever you want to look at it, like something's going to arise. Something bad's going to happen. Something's great going to happen. But it's like, can we trust each other? And are we happy? Are we confident in ourselves and able to walk through these things individually and then come together collectively to, overcome them as well.
And then also, just to hit on the other side of that, the other perspective is also being open-minded, because I think everyone has different personality traits. So some people are very set, and some people know, like, this is what I want, this is who I want to be with, this is the relationship I want to have. And sometimes it's not going to look like that. It's not going to be what you always pictured. It's not going to be, maybe sometimes it's not even this big romantic, a movie type of love, but sometimes it's what was meant for you, and that person was meant to balance the things that you were lacking, or vice versa. So be open-minded to getting out of your comfort zone, going to new places, experiencing new things, so that you can meet people, however that looks for you. Meet people, if you are single and looking, that kind of balance that for you. And I think it goes both ways, being prepared and knowing what you want, filling yourself up enough, but then also being open-minded to something that might not look like what you thought it would. So
Right, man, you guys are dropping a lot of gems over here. That's why I got you guys over here, because you guys are full of wisdom, full of knowledge, and you talk in a very relatable way. But one thing that Skylar just mentioned, something that popped in my head, is you want to, in a relationship, I think it's important that you communicate your expectations. And then with that being said, allow room for grace. Like, don't expect your partner or whoever you're with to be perfect and to fulfill everything that whatever it is that you're expecting from them. Like have realistic expectations, but also communicate what it is that you are desiring or what it is that you're wanting. Because if you don't communicate that and they're not giving you what you want, you can't be mad at them for not doing that because they didn't know. Like I know some people think people can read minds. I'm not going to say who or who can't, but some people think people can read minds. That's just not how it works in the real world. If you can read minds, you probably need to go get you a little job on TV because you're gonna make a lot of money. Because to my knowledge, I don't know anybody that can actually do that. Yeah. But with that being said, I want to hit some of the more extremes of this question of how long is too long to be married. How long is too long to be in a relationship not being married? So we have those people who think you should know who you want to be, who you should know when you're ready to marry somebody, like within a couple of weeks or a month maybe. And then you have those people who are together for like 30 years and they haven't been married yet. So it's like, what else do you need to see at that point after 30 years? And then like when you have the people who are married not married, who have been together for 2 weeks, it's like, well, why haven't you proposed to me yet? I was like, bro, I don't even know you yet. Like, you need to relax. Like, come on now. So you guys want to like just touch on the extremes real quick?
Yeah, I can actually hit on that because the truth is, day one, when I met this girl, we were back in Ohio, back in our hometown. That's where we actually came together. We met after like 10 years. We knew each other previously. It's a long story. Maybe some other time we'll get into that. Nevertheless, the night I met her, I went back to my mom and my sister and I said, that's my wife. I know for a fact that's my wife. And that's what I'm saying. It's so very, it fluctuates between person to person because again, I felt as if I knew right there in that moment, and I did. That was my wife. Some other people, it might take 4 or 5 years of starting to realize those things based off the action, based off the trust that they build maybe. However, I also was wise enough to know I'm not going to go make this commitment or try and get into this commitment too early because the world has a way of trying to tear things down. And I truly do. Yes, my heart's desires, that's my wife, and I believe that. But I'm going to walk that out for a little bit, get to know this person and make sure, first off, she feels the same way about me, because it isn't all about Hunter, right? Just like you were saying, it's that two-way street, being able to communicate those expectations. I know she did. She was chasing after me. Hey, but all jokes aside, it's about that though, right? It's some people know very soon, but I realized I wanted to take a little bit more time, invest into our relationship, get to know her more. So my truth is, I thought it's like, hey, 2 to 3 years, if things keep going great, that's about when I'll propose. And that's about when it was about 2 or 3 years. I felt like I really start to get a hold of like understanding who she is, her desires, her needs, her wants, and what we could accomplish in the future together. So for me, I would say, yes, I knew up front, but it took me some time to make sure.
I actually asked this question on my Instagram story the other day, well, really the other week, and I want to share some of the responses. It was some interesting ones in there. So let me see. One person said to me, I would say 5 to 6 years, but there are people who dated for 20 until they did. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer for this question. We just want to try to like touch on the different perspectives. But that's what one person said. Then you got another person that said 3 to 4 years. You got another person that said at least 3 to 4 years. You should know by then. We have somebody that says maybe anything past 6 is too long. And then we have one person that says depends on the age, which I think is actually very true because it does depend on the age. And speaking of age, let's say you met in high school and you were high school sweethearts and like, well, you've been friends for a couple of years, so you should know the person. You have a solid foundation. It's like, well, when do you guys want to get married? Like, bro, we're like 17. We're not even graduated yet. You need to relax. Like, that's where like the different things, like what age comes in with things like that. And then we all have different stages of life. Everything's not gonna look the same for everybody. So it's just a lot of factors that go into it. I just want to add that on to it. Then you have this one person that says you should know within a month. I'm just gonna leave that there. Then you have another person that says 10 years. I mean, it's just have answers all over the place. And then we have one person that says the limit does not exist. So you can be together for like 100 years before you decide to get married. I mean, if that's your cup of tea, I ain't judging, but it just wouldn't be me. But the general consensus is about 2 to 4 years. Yeah. So I think that's pretty decent. Well, not pretty decent. I think that's the pretty general consensus about what my people were saying on Instagram. So now I'm going to share my answer from my perspective. like I said, it's not a right or wrong answer. This is just how I generally feel about it. I think at least a year, if you are solid friends, like if you have a solid foundation, you have a solid friendship, because if your relationship partner is not your best friend, that's already a shaky start to marriage. So I just think that's really important to have that foundation built. So I say at least a year. And because I say at least a year, because if you look at the world, you look at nature, it's like we have 4 different seasons, right? You have fall, you have winter, you have summer, you have spring, and those all happen within a year. Each season is 3 months. So if you are rushing into marriage to say I'm married, it's like, well, do you actually know all the signs that this person has? Like you can go through an entire year and like you can base your year based on the summer. It's like, all right, this is summer, so everything is going to be hot for the rest of the year. It's like, no, bro. Like when winter comes and you got a bikini on, you're gonna freeze to death. It's like you have to be prepared for those situations. Like you can't be so quick to rush in. You have to use wisdom and discernment, like you guys said. Like just use patience, but don't allow that to be an excuse. Like saying, "Oh, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Let's give it another year. Let's give it another year." It's like, bro, at some point you have to know.
Yeah.
Either you are not paying attention, or you just really don't want to be with that person long term. I mean, that's something that you have to answer for yourself. Like, I'm not going to judge somebody else and say, oh, I think you guys should be married. Like, that's your relationship, nobody else's relationship but yours. But like I said, my personal answer is like at least a year. Like, when you do know, it could be a week. I'm not excluding that, but for me personally, I'm thinking like from right now, from my single perspective, at least a year. If you guys are solid friends, at least a year. And that's my answer on it. If you guys want to like throw any last comments in before we wrap up.
Yeah, no, I just think that's super awesome. I was very curious to hear your perspective, so I'm glad you shared that. And I actually like that analogy used with the seasons. I think that's so genius that, you know, seeing people through every season of life, because you need to see a full year of that person to understand how they act, literally maybe coinciding with the actual seasons of the world. But I thought it was cool as well. I actually did a little bit more research on some numbers for statistic people, and it said that people that wait at least 1 to 2 years, that the divorce percentage actually decreased by about 20%. And this was a study of over 3,000 different couples. Okay. And then if people waited 3 or more years, the divorce rate decreased by more than 50%. So I thought it was interesting. The longer time people waited, statistically in this one particular the study here, the longer time people waited, the divorce rate went down. So I thought that was pretty interesting just to look at that for what it's worth. So
it's the first time I've heard divorce rate going down.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think if I could add anything, I don't want to sound cliche, but I don't know if the answer is time. I don't know if you can like truly answer that question. One, because going back to what we said, everybody's different. I was in a committed, long-lasting relationship prior to. A lot of time was put in, but there was still so much doubt, so much lack of security, you know, but I also think I was hindered by the time, because there was so much time that it was almost became this just normalcy. You know, I had done it for so long that I was like, okay, we're just going to keep doing this. Whereas I met Hunter, and within literally the first couple days, week, we had those level of conversations that I was like, oh, like, I know, you know, I just know. And so I couldn't sit here and be like, you know what, like 2 years is how long you have to wait before you get married, you know, things like that. Truly, I think the answer is wait as long as it takes for you to feel like you're ready, because, and also don't be afraid of the commitment, you know, don't be afraid of stepping into commitment. Commitment scares people. And I think that's why, you know, people sometimes are in 30-year-long relationships without stepping into marriage.
You're still in a relationship. So.
Of course, yeah. And again, not judging, but at the same time, is it, you know, the relationship, or is it your fear of stepping into commitment that's stopping you from doing that? And so I really, really think my answer is truly finding the discernment and figuring out for yourself, you know, is this what I want? Am I ready for this? You know, and if not, then do some things on the back end, you know, get some mentorship, get some guidance, find someone in your life that has had a long lasting relationship. For us, we were very blessed to have that here in Austin. We found, you know, our mentors that have kind of shown us an example of a healthy, successful relationship. And when we saw that not only helped us, but it made our vision for our marriage so much more clear.
Yeah.
And so for us, it didn't take as long. And I think for some people, they always look at us and they're like, they hear him say that I was his wife. When he told me that he told his mom and sister that I was his wife the first day we met, I was like, there's no way. Like, absolutely
She
not.
asked them and they
And
said.
I asked them and they said he absolutely did. So that's what I mean though, is there's no timing. You know, if we're living by time, we're believing that every day is granted, and that's not the case at the end of the day. So.
And last thing, thank you so much again for having
Yeah,
us. This has been a pleasure. I appreciate the fact that you are so prepared. Your questions are genuine, they're authentic. You know, you're doing things that are bringing people value, and that's very rare nowadays. So I appreciate what you are doing as well. And again, giving us the opportunity and the invite to be on your episode 25 of your show today, man. So thank you very much.
Oh yeah, man. I really appreciate you guys for both being here and dropping all types of knowledge bombs and wisdom bombs, man. You guys sound like you got a whole class that you're running over there. So really excited to get this out to people. I hope people find value in it. I hope people find substance in it. And that'll be a wrap for this episode. Thank you guys for the people who watched to the end. Love you guys. Y'all have a blessed day.
Team Reez.
Thanks for watching. Click here to subscribe and click here to watch more videos.
Na 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 na.